everybody, and welcome to the music stage on this very typically depressing Dublin day, but we hope to maybe fill you with a bit of positivity, and we're going to talk about the digital agency in the 21st century and basically the relationships between bands and brands. And really, when it comes to bands and brands, I think there's no better people to talk to than these kind of two outstanding individuals in their own field. You know, roughly kind of the background. We have kind of Nadya here from Sunshine and Denzyl from Apple, and you've kind of a new venture called Tile Yard Studios you just tell me about. But firstly, Nadya, just tell me a little bit your career journey to date and kind of what inspired you to kind of to get to where you are today.
To go into digital, the wonderful world of digital. I started working in '95, and I had one of those bizarre experiences where a man came to visit our agency at the time and showed me the web. And I looked at it and thought, this looks amazing, no clue what's going on. Took it to my bosses and said, maybe we should start to sell some stuff online. And they went, no, it's never going to catch up. Don't bother with it, it's not interesting. So after about a year, I thought, I think they're wrong, and I left. I joined a company where I tried to sell very expensive model boats. You know, those kind of, you sometimes see them in shop windows, beautiful sails, about $1,500 each, over a 14 kilobit modem. And I think it took about 25 to 30 minutes for just one image to download. Maybe it was a little bit too early. And then went to a company called Grey, which would set up a digital bit, to try and launch a new demand printing bookstore, which the dot-com crash happened and maybe didn't happen. And my favourite sort of moment of that digital journey was, as obviously a very sad moment in history, the Twin Towers came down. I was filling in an RFP for global security and how digital could really build global security, and I felt at the time that maybe the global security landscape had changed quite dramatically in September 2001. Maybe we shouldn't do it. And then carried on the journey from digital becoming this kind of crazy niche world to today where it's embedded into everything we do.
And Denzyl, tell me just kind of a little bit about your background, because it's really kind of some fascinating. You've worked with Paul Simon in the Graceland era, and then your route then towards Apple and beyond.
Well, I started out. I was a musician. My career. I was a music therapist, and then I became a producer and a manager and a tour manager, and I did all the right things, and was very lucky in just stepping in from one thing to another and learning along the way. And in 1997, I did an emotional thing and bought an abandoned flower farm in Hawaii, very remote. But suddenly, I had flowers that I had to sell, so I actually had to build a website and taught myself how to do that. And that site still lives on today. But that's what got me into digital music, and I started a company at the time called AWAL, which sort of disrupted at the time the music industry on how to create independent artists who couldn't get a record deal, didn't want a record deal, or were dropped from a label, and gave them an opportunity to put their music up online and have people buy it. And that's now a fully fledged community of over 20,000 artists selling millions and millions of tracks and streams and downloads.
Fantastic. And Nadya, there's kind of one thing I'd like to kind of really ask you, because I think it's just really fascinating, is your involvement in this project called the Great British Diversity Experiment, and kind of looking at the wonderful website for that, and kind of the facts of that only 3% of creative directors in the advertising industry are women. This would also apply throughout the music industry as well, indeed artists' representation and so on.
With women now.
Yeah, I think hopefully. And I also recommend you all can maybe check out innovationdisorder.com. And you wrote something on this which I found very inspiring of, let's not favor any particular person or role in the industry. We need to celebrate teams, not heroes, including the clever people that make things happen. And I kind of find that kind of very... When you say, okay, I'm kind of conceding your journey, you went into digital, what kind of inspired you to go this kind of expansive, really kind of, and justice for all and genuine equality?
I think digital makes a big change to the industry, especially in advertising. I'm sure it's done the same in music as well, is that before there was you were the artist, you were the creative director, and you made something with a production company and it just went through. Digital, it requires everybody to be involved. You've got huge production, like you're building software, it's technology. You obviously need the coders. So there's a massive team effort that goes into anything that is digital. So having a culture where we idolize heroes and only the hero, the front person, is false, because they are only as good as the team behind them, and it's never more the case now than it was before. So I very strongly believe that we have got to kind of start to move away from this hero culture and move into a culture where we celebrate the team that's around them. So that's it. And then on diversity, it's just about if all we ever have is, and no offence to all the people in the room who fall into this category, but middle-aged white men ruling the world, then all the opinions are going to be the same. So diversity, we need diverse teams of people to create crazy fucked up stuff as much, and not just rely on these heroes.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear on this stage, but I just have. I'm assuming it's fine. No one's kind of put a
I didn't hear any
me.
bleeps in the background or anything.
I'm really glad I'm not middle-aged anymore.
I am now middle-aged.
Moving on from that, and actually I think that's a really fascinating point, and a question I'd actually like to kind of ask both of you, and I think it kind of has echoes with music and indeed popular culture in general. This hero worship thing, and the one thing that kind of really stirred me as a music fan was punk rock, in whatever form, not necessarily about the Sex Pistols in the late 70s, but let's say more recent forms, whether it be Nirvana, the year that punk broke and so on. That is really the antithesis of hero worship, or should be. It should, it's a DIY culture, a do-it-yourself culture, which the internet really kind of makes really possible and fosters.
Well, I think the internet has really leveled the playing field between the receivers and the givers, or the consumers and the creators. But where we are now is the level of creativity has to be connected. It has to be authentic, because the power is in the hands of everybody who's walking around with a little window to the world. And we all are, and everyone is attached to this little window. So, and also to the stimulus around you. So unless an artist, no matter how hero they are, puts out an amazing song or an amazing video or an amazing, persona that is more authentic, it just may not connect, no matter how popular you may have been in a previous incarnation. So we really, and this is why, I celebrate what you say about teams, because it takes now a team of people to understand the DNA of what an artist or a creator on this side is trying to do, and then how to match that message with the art or creativity or even medium to get that song, that message, that bit of content, or even what do you do with that content to make it connect in this world where everyone's competing, for eyeballs, and everyone's either on social media or on blogs or on Twitter or on news or on this or on that or on Facebook, and so everyone's trying to find that place where you can connect, and that's a really interesting moment in time, because it really requires the creators to make unbelievably, I call it fearless creative. We're in this area of it's got to hit you, or else you're going to scatter it and go to the next thing.
I think we have to remember people fall in love with people. In advertising, people fell in love with the Penguin last year for the John Lewis ad. I fall in love with Florence and Lana Del Rey every single day. So there is always going to be a role for that immediate connection from one person to another. So I don't think we should say let's not have heroes. But as Denzyl was saying, everything's been democratized, and it's the team who are listening and going, I think a penguin could be good this year, guys. That also should be celebrated. So I think the democratization of choices that people can make about who they fall in love with requires a much bigger team listening and then actioning against it, and then also enabling people to touch them in new and different ways, like not just at a gig, but through digital content. Some of the stuff that I can't believe I'm actually talking about this band, but the way One Direction, their audience are unbelievably young. They're total, I hate using the phrase digital native, I've used it. So the way they launch their music is so different, and so it's just fascinating. I find it's almost like a case study.
And knowing them personally, they're still sitting around a room going, how do we innovate? How do we do things differently? And how, there's this concept of, And I think that's the level playing field now, where it's not about us and them, because there's so much respect for the audience now to find your tribe.
Yeah.
You know, it's like artists and creators understand that out in the world there is a tribe looking for them,
Yeah.
and they just somehow have to find that tribe, and then they're fine. You know, and that's how the new world order will survive, I think, because when artists have found their tribe, and that tribe subscribes to what they're doing, they'll have their connection, and they don't need all these middle things anymore.
Sure.
And a lot of those things will fall away.
Yeah.
Over time, over the next 1 to 5 to 10 years, it'll be this direct connection. You know, people talk about artists and fans and direct connections, and we're seeing a little bit of it, but we've got, you know, we're really in a state of change and flux right now.
Yeah, yeah. What you say there about direct connection, I find fascinating. It kind of really echoes with what kind of Steve Albini has said, is hailed the internet as making the most direct, efficient, compact relationship ever between band and audience in the history of recorded music or indeed creativity.
Yeah, I mean, what's really interesting for me is that brands increasingly are trying to behave like bands.
Yeah.
Get the R's in the right place there, bands. Because, you know, brands typically had very, very distant relationships because it was mediated through the TV, it was broadcast. What bands are doing increasingly well, One Direction, Little Mix, especially the younger ones being great examples of it, is that they are embedding themselves in the tribes and in the cultures. And increasingly, when a brand comes to us, they're asking us, how can we embed ourselves into tribes? So we're working with a new social media platform at the moment, and we are looking at the Minecraft community, one of my favorite communities in the entire world, and how we can embed this application into their lives. So again, it's about making it so much more close. And we'll have clients say to us, we want people to love our brand as much as they will love a band, and it is all about, as Denzyl's saying, kind of finding the tribes and embedding yourselves into that.
And also kind of, we were kind of speaking just before we came on, and Denzyl, you mentioned something like, obviously the music is really important. If you're going to be a successful artist, good songs come number one, but increasingly important now, that's really just kind of about marketing those songs, marketing those individuals, and that's really what the challenge is.
Well, then therein lies this sort of topic of what we're talking about is this concept of agencying, or you know, you have a brand, how do you get it out to the world? And you know, we live in a culture now where I can know so much about you in a few clicks.
Yeah.
And imagine what a brand or a band can do in order to get a message out to, you know, millions of people, potential audiences, in a short amount of time. We've never lived in an era where this is so possible. Now, you could also do the wrong thing, and you could put something out that just doesn't connect. But you know, this is the ability to get something out requires, again, in understanding the DNA of the artist and finding the right creator. You know, I've been lucky enough to work with Nadya and the Sunshine Agency, and just, you know, you sit in a meeting and things come up that you couldn't imagine because you've put the right group of people in the room, and the right creative minds and the right skills. And it's a real skill set to do marketing, or to put a message out into the world in the right way. And every company deals with this, from no matter how big you are to if you're a startup. You know, it's all, how do you message? How do you put the right thing out into the world so that people can embrace it? Because you can either embrace it or you can neglect it. You know, that's the choice people are going to have.
And I think it's interesting what you said about, you know, as long as the music's good or the acting's good, they'll be fine. Because we're seeing such a trend now where celebrities, heroes, are trying to also, so where brands are starting to try and behave like bands, individuals are starting to behave like brands. So we get approached a lot with someone saying, I am this person, I'm famous for this, acting, music, whatever. And I want to create much broader platforms so I can launch products from it, so I can launch online entities from it. And obviously we all know the example of Goop, but increasingly you're seeing individuals creating a platform. So they'll come to us and they'll say, I am X, but I don't know what I stand for. I know I'm a brilliant musician, or I know I'm a brilliant artist, but I don't know what the platform is that I should speak from. I care about the environment, or I care about this. Can you help me understand how I can sort of broaden myself away from being seen as this one thing and actually seen as a platform from which I can create products, sell services, and do so much more than just relying on my ability to turn up out on stage at some point.
It doesn't always work. There have been YouTube stars who have gazillions of followers on YouTube, and they have talent, and they've come out and go, okay, I'm going to make a recording now, and surely out of my 50 million, followers or likes or whatever, I'm going to sell some records, and they've come out and put music out, and nothing has happened. So, so it doesn't always work. You have to do you have to do something authentically meaningful, or else the power is in the hands of people out there. If they don't like it, they're not gonna buy it.
Yeah, and it's a very democratic kind of thing. Yeah. Tell me a little about Tallyard Studios.
Well, in London, behind King's Cross, is a little horseshoe street that about 5-6 years ago, a real estate developer sort of started buying up the real estate. It was very industrial, and one music company went in there, and in 5 years, there's over 100 recording studios, music-related companies, marketing companies, agencies, managers, accountants, lawyers, startups, mostly relating to the music world and entertainment world, but also, there's a popcorn company in there that started from there. So it's just been a really fascinating exercise to be part of. It's like a university or a campus, because the sheer colliding of people in the cafe, which is called the Vinyl Cafe, in the middle, just people colliding and go, oh, you're that songwriter. Oh, I've got a song. Oh, oh yeah, you write lyrics. And next thing you know, two people are in a room finishing something just because they collided. So and companies like Facebook and Google and Apple, they've all understood this. How do you arrange an office space so people can collide and create and not be stuck to a desk all day long? And there's a lot more openness now to the design of spaces. And this is what we're doing at Tallyard, is how can we collaborate? And we're seeing the most amazing things come out from allowing people to collaborate. Because for years, people worked in their little studios and never came out. And now they're starting to come out and realize that just bumping into each other, and that's what happens at places like Web Summit. You bump into people, and then suddenly things start happening. So this is this little community in
collaboration and diversity wins, I think, is the sort of the thing that comes from it, isn't it? Because you're so right. When different perspectives and people find each other, suddenly you get something amazing.
And thankfully, there's more than 50% of women in there.
Yes. Just going to do this audience, 10%. Okay.
Now, Sally, we're really running out of time. It's flown by, and there's so much. I think we've only touched on.
Let's have some questions from the audience then.
We've only have one minute. Maybe I'll conclude this way. A very quick question to you both, and I think you've probably got about 30 seconds each. Your hopes, your dreams, and your aspirations for the future.
World peace. I'm going to talk from my perspective within an industry, and it's an advertising industry which I think has historically been all about selling and making profit. And what we're increasingly seeing is, because of the democratization, people don't want to buy something just because it's going to make someone richer. It's just not what the world's about anymore. They want to buy something because, one, it kind of helps build their brand. Two, they feel it's doing some good in the world in some way and it's ethical. So my hope for the future is that the commercial sector increasingly realizes that being successful means profit and purpose and responsibility at the same time. And then I don't need to feel embarrassed when I say to people I work in advertising and they sneer anymore.
We're out of time, so I'm just going to agree with what Nadya says.
World peace.
World peace.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, please take it for Denzyl and Nadya.